Let's get a songbook and turn to page 499. It's not as easy to get a songbook nowadays. I think our kids from school have they sing in here a couple times during the week. So if you never can't find a songbook up here in that right front row, there's about 20 of them usually. So 499. I will sing the wondrous story of the Christ who died for me, how he left his home in glory for the cross of Calvary. Yes, I'll sing the wondrous story of the Christ who died for me. Sing it with the saints in glory, gathered by the crystal sea. I was lost, but Jesus found me, found the sheep that went astray. Threw his loving arms around me, drew me back into his way. Yes, I'll sing the wondrous story of the Christ who died for me. Sing it with the saints in glory, gathered by the crystal sea. He will keep me till the river rolls its waters at my feet. Then he'll bear me safely over where the loved ones I shall meet. Yes, I'll sing the wondrous story of the Christ who died for me. Sing it with the saints in glory, gathered by the crystal sea. Brother Clark, would you open with the word of prayer, please? Amen. Good to see everybody here tonight. Appreciate you coming. And I think I've seen next week, this is going to be nice weather on Wednesday. Next week on Monday, it's not going to be so nice and a little bit chilly, but first time. But by January, it'll seem like a normal day. If it hits 30 degrees, you'll think that's good. So, but you won't think it next Monday when the high's in the 30s and the wind's blowing. So. We do have new prayer lists. I think we made 2 new prayer lists this week, and we've added several things and moved some things around. Under mothers and babies, Valerie Freilich is not on there anymore because she had her baby on Monday. And everything's well. Everybody's doing well. Mr. Luke Andrew Freilich is his name. And so they're excited. That's their first child, and that is exciting. Believe it or not, if you're a second or third child, you were exciting too. You're just not quite as exciting as the first child was. So I was number 4. They forgot even that it was supposed to be fun. It was just, oh no, here comes another kid. So that's the way it is, I guess. So we've taken that off the list. Under write-ins, you want to let me give you a couple things to add down there. Add Sherry Mitchell. She was in the hospital last week. I think over the weekend she went in the hospital. Her sodium was low. They thought she had COVID. They told her she had COVID. And I guess they still think they're going to get paid. If you get COVID, they get paid money. So they told her she had COVID, but it wasn't COVID. It was low sodium, which that does not happen to very many people. And so she got out and she was home, but she was feeling very bad today and was trying to she finally had someone take her to the hospital, so she's back in the hospital. So pray for her, Sherry Mitchell. And then Nelson Greenwell went and he got his eyes worked on today. One eye, he's got a cataract taken out, so he can halfway see now in one eye, and still blind in the other one, maybe, I don't know. But But pray for him. He goes back tomorrow, gets the other one done. And then I've got a quiz for us tonight. Not a quiz like where you had to find the Bible things, but see if anybody can tell me who put, and I'll give you the name, Anthony and Ashley on Mothers and Babies. Anybody remember that?
Yes, I know who it was. It was the Good News, Eliza's mom.
Really? Well, we're going to try, well, we may change the way we do our prayer list for the simple reason that today, as we was updating this for the second time this week on our prayer list, we realized that Anthony and Ashley's been on the prayer list for some time. And sometimes you put people on there and don't take them off. So I keep all my prayer lists, and I went back to December of 2021, and we put them on Mothers and Babies. So that baby is over 3 years old right now. Oh, they did? Okay. Okay. Well, anyhow, Anthony and Ashley has been on there for over 3 years. So that's why I figured we're going to have to do something because there's other names on there. And when you first put them on, I usually write down who, and I write out to the side who puts it on there so that I can get updates. But somehow I eventually lose all of that, and I don't get updates. So I don't remember. And so when we realized that had been on there for over 3 years, I said maybe we should change the way we do some things. So for instance, if you're looking at we got them color coded too. I actually color code some for us now. I don't know, I think for me. But under other requests down there, we have Natalie and Chrissy for decisions. And I don't remember who put that up. That's you, okay.
She can move to the mother and baby list.
Okay.
She's due in December. Christy's her mama. Just asked when we first got all that good news.
Okay. Okay, so Natalie goes to the Mothers and Babies, and
Christy can come off. And also, I think I told maybe last week, on the other side on the sick list, you have it listed as Robert Keeley, but it's Robert Paisley for his back, and he's doing fine now.
okay. I still got your name on there, so I remember who put it on there. So, but he's doing fine now. Okay. See, all of these prayer lists have to go through translation. It's like going to Fordham Field as a missionary. I write, and I can't even read my own writing, and then Ashley gets my prayer list and tries to figure out what I said on here, and then she tries to type it in there. So she called me several times this week, and I'm trying to think. There was I'll find it here in a minute. There's a last name up here, and I put down Nail, and I need to know if that Nail, is Nail the right name? No one knows that? I can't find it now anyhow, but she called me on that, and I said, in my mind, I wrote down Nail for a reason.
Well, I think I told you that he had cancer. My neighbor.
Okay, Tony Nail.
Yeah, but I think he's in Texas. His mother. She asked me to put him on prayer.
Okay. But I did get the right name, though, Tony Nail? Okay, that's what I was mainly checking on. What I may do is I may have, may just cut up little sheets of paper when you come in of an evening on Wednesday evenings, write down some things you need prayed for, and we will transfer it there, and then I will talk. People on YouTube will hear what's going on, and I don't know if that'll work, but we're just going to try some different things. Try to keep our prayer list a little bit more updated. And if somebody's already on there, but you have an update or something that's going on with them, you can let us know that. While we're at that, is there anything else you need to talk about? Some other things going on the prayer list? Sis?
I wanted to put my sister-in-law Gloria Combs on. She's having shoulder surgery on Monday.
Yeah, I thought we put her on there last week.
We did, but I don't see it on here.
Let me see if we moved it. Because we made a new list, you may have put it in alphabetical order somewhere.
Yeah, I was looking for it. I didn't see it.
Okay, Gloria Combs. Yeah, it is on my the list from last week. So
Yeah, I thought we did, but it probably just got dropped while I got there.
okay. And when is her surgery again?
It's on Monday.
Monday. Okay.
Yeah, November 5th.
Okay. Then I see other hands. Yes, ma'am.
The Jenny Huber that is in the bottom of the sick list,
Uh huh.
is that supposed to be Jerry Huber?
I don't know. I don't know a Jenny Huber, but Jerry Huber was on our list because he's under hospice care. Does anybody know a Jenny Huber? Anybody put a Jenny Huber on here? That's what he is now.
And Harold Snyder, he's been back in the hospital again.
Okay. He's not on here. Harold's not?
No.
Okay. Harold Snyder. Mm-hmm. I have no idea. I figured when I said, that way, you can write down whatever you want. Boy, hands everywhere now. Okay. Claire Hazelrig passed away. Okay, now I had a hand. Here we go.
Just for Maverick, under cancer, it's not Pemberton, I just need to correct, it's Pendleton, Pendleton.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
We have two nieces that are gonna have a baby. One is Sydney Brown. She's due in December.
First name again? Sydney Brown?
Yep.
Okay. And the other?
The other is Brittany Basinger.
You said the last name, I didn't hear it.
Basinger.
Oh, Basinger. I know that name.
And Brittany is due in March, sometime in March. But they're doing well now. They're doing okay.
Okay. Yeah?
You can take Lori off of the cancer list.
Okay.
She's been declared cancer-free. She still has to go back for checks, but regular checks, but she's cancer-free right now.
Okay.
Put her on the write-in for her broken arm.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Deanna Barton is the same one. She's off, can't take her off the cancer list. She just has to back every 6 months.
Okay, I'm going to find her. There she is.
About 7 from the top of the cancer.
Yeah, I found her. Since I've seen Stan Curtis's name out there, I'll go ahead and tell you this now before our business meeting coming up in a few weeks so you can have it in your mind. But Stan Curtis works with Flights International or something out of Florida that goes to Haiti and takes a lot of things into Haiti every year. And we have given to them several times. We do not support them monthly, but they are a few $1,000s short of what they need to fund everything this year. So he called me, but it was right after our business meeting. But he said he doesn't have to have it until maybe, I don't know, maybe first of the year or something. So he said, I said, well, then I'll bring it up the next business meeting. So keep that in your mind, and we'll bring that up and see if we can send and help them. Now I got more hands. Yes, sir.
My family went to Israel back from Missouri. They got there Monday, and they'll be there till the 20th. This week, they're going on a tour with a Messianic Jew. They're
Okay.
So they're going to be going on that tour, but the rest of the week they're going to be meeting some farmers and going to a couple of kibbuzes.
Okay, give me your last name again.
Montgomery, Montgomery.
Montgomery. Okay. That's the second way of translation we have to do here. Besides I actually have to read what I write, these big ears don't pick up very good anymore, so we get a lot of things wrong. We'll put them on the write-ins as they'll be. You say they're coming back when?
20th, November 20th.
Okay. And you had more?
Yes, sir. Grandpa or Mr. Isaac, he's been sick. I think he's still sick. Yeah, he's still sick.
Okay, so Isaac's sick. Okay, let's put him on the write-ins here. Yes, ma'am? Do you have something?
I see my neurologist on the 10th. I'm hoping if they do a screen on my brain that there's no more spots or spread spots.
Okay. Have we got you on here? I thought we did. I'll find you here in a second.
I see Hilbert on here for salvation, but I haven't been to Hilbert in almost 3 years.
Well, we'll put you under there. You go. When do you go now?
On the 10th.
The 10th? Okay. Jesse Taylor. I forgot what's going on with Rance. I didn't see Rance. Did anybody know Rance go somewhere? Did he tell me and I forgot? Nobody knows. Well, maybe he's watching on YouTube. He'll send a text. It'll get here tomorrow morning sometime. He's slower than me at texting. So if you ever text me and wonder why I don't text back, I am texting back. It just takes a while. I mean, if you text me, then you can say, okay, now I got time to go get a sandwich and a little something to drink, and I'll sit down. He'll get back with me here in a minute. That's how fast I am. And the kids, they text me, and then before I can get an answer out, they've texted me another message, and finally I just call them. So, well, that's the best way to do it, so I can get caught back up with everything. So then people laugh when they watch me hitting my phone one finger. How can you use more than one finger? I mean, it's a little bitty tiny keyboard. I don't know. I can get on the keyboard and I can type you up a letter pretty fast, but I can't do that on the phone. You didn't need all that information. You just got it anyhow. Yes, sir.
I don't know the details or nothing, but I was in a hurry kind of talking to Linda, and she said Rance broke some of his teeth. I don't know the details or nothing, though, I'm sorry. But
He broke some of his teeth? You don't think he ran into Linda's fist, do you? Now, you don't write that down on there, but was this?
I have to say no, Linda's too nice of a woman to do that.
Oh, okay.
Pastor, is that Rance Hill under the sick list?
No, Rance Tackett that we're talking about. Anything else? Okay, well, we will come back to this prayer list at the end of the service, and if you're not used to how we do things, we'll just spend a little time praying over that at the end of the service, and then you'll be dismissed as soon as you're finished. You're through. So, in the meantime, we're going to be in 1 Thessalonians tonight, chapter number 5. I preached a sermon quite a while back about it stuck with people. I talked to them. I said one of the things I have a responsibility is when you come, you ought to expect to get something from the Word of God, not just a little thought here or there. Now, granted, sometimes you'll have it like if you come to men's breakfast, you're not going to get much, but just a little thought. And we'll have breakfast, we'll have a short devotion, and we'll be gone after we pray. But when you come to church to hear a sermon, you expect to get something from it. And so I talked about getting a meal, not getting a bologna sandwich. And so I have people ask me a lot, are we getting bologna tonight or what are we getting? So I don't know. I hope we don't dish out bologna to people, but I have had some people tell me that was a bunch of bologna what you threw out there. So maybe it is. But 1 Thessalonians tonight, chapter number 5, Paul's writing here. He says, but of the times and the seasons, brethren, ye have no need that I write unto you. For yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. But ye, brethren, are not in darkness, that day should overtake you as a thief. Ye are the children of light, and the children of the day. We are not of the night, nor of darkness. Therefore let us not sleep, as do others, but let us watch and be sober. For they that sleep, sleep in the night, and they that be drunken are drunken in the night. But let us, who are of the day, be sober, putting on the breastplate of faith and love, and for an helmet the hope of salvation. For God hath not appointed us to wrath, but to obtain salvation by our Lord Jesus Christ, who died for us, that whether we wake or sleep, we should live together with him. Wherefore, comfort yourselves together and edify one another, even as also ye do. My thought tonight is, don't be surprised. This week on Monday, Nate and Valerie were blessed with a son, Mr. Luke Andrew Freilich. But they were not surprised. They were expecting Mr. Luke Andrew Freilich, and they had been preparing for a while. Now, I don't know what all they did to prepare. There's things in my mind that you do, and to be honest with you, it's been so long since I don't remember what we did to prepare for our kids. But I remember things like the ladies take vitamins and they read all the books, especially if it's your first child on you should do this and should not do this. And if you've never had a child, can I just tell you, the whole world is different. I mean, you don't have any idea what it's like until you have kids to what it's like to try to raise them and be responsible and all those things. So you do all this planning, you read the books, you get a nursery all put together, and in our day, you didn't know if it was going to be a boy or a girl, so you get a nursery together, of course, what you think you're going to have, what you want to have, and then if you have the opposite, then you're going to have to redo the nursery about real quick. So that was a little different in my day, but you do all those things. You have a bag packed, and I was reading about a fellow. His wife. I was trying to think how that story went, but he called in his wife, and he said, my wife's having a baby and all this. He was just all excited and going on, and the operator, she said, well, is this his first child? He said, no, silly, it's her husband. So, well, those things happen. You get a little bit nervous, but that's what happened. But they were not surprised. They were planning, is what my thought is. And in these verses we just read, we're instructed that looking forward to the Lord's return should be a similar thing for us. We don't know when. They didn't know the day for sure. They didn't know the hour, but they knew he was coming, and they was living their lives looking forward to that day. Well, I know the Lord's coming, and we ought to be living our lives looking forward to that day, but I can't tell you what day it's going to be. I can't tell you the hour. Can't tell you if he may come by, we may go by way of grave. I don't know that. But we need to be ready. We need to be looking forward to that. And so Paul mentions some things in here that I would say, I've got a series of books in my office that Wiersbe wrote, and it's called the B series. Well, it kind of reminded me of this when I was reading this. Paul's saying there's some things you should be. You ought to just be a certain way as you await the Lord's coming. So I'm going to look at 4 of those tonight. And the first one I'd say, he says, I think you ought to be informed. Look at verse 4 again. He says, but ye, brethren, are not in darkness, that day should overtake you as a thief. Ye are children of the light, and the children of the day. We are not of the night, nor of darkness. My thought is, I hope that as you come to Faith Baptist Church as members or just attenders or maybe just visitors, I hope that we never fail to teach this simple truth, that the Lord's coming, and we need to be ready. I can't imagine what it would be like to have all these people get raptured out and get to heaven, and we had no idea. We had no idea that this was planned, that God had these things. We need to be ready. We need to be, as a church, we have the responsibility to be ready and to know and to be informed, is what he says here. As parents, we have a responsibility to teach our kids that the Lord is coming someday. And again, they need to know that it's happening, but we don't know when it's happening. So we just have to be prepared, and we ought to live our lives in a manner that's consistent with the fact that he is coming. And then as individual Christians ourselves, we have the responsibility to understand that part of the Christian message. It is important. It is a very important part of Christianity, so we ought to study it. We ought to know some things about it. You may not know everything about it, but you ought to know enough from the Bible that if someone asks you about it, you can tell them, this is what the Bible says, this is what God says, and this is what we're looking for. We need to be informed. So that's one thing that Paul's telling them here about don't be surprised, instead be informed. Secondly, he says we need to be alert. In verse 6, he says, therefore, let us not sleep as do others, but let us watch and be sober. For they that sleep, sleep in the night, and they that be drunken are drunken in the night. And then back up in verse 3, he says, for when they shall say, peace and safety, then the sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. I read that and I thought about some things back on September 11th, 2001. America, I think, up until that time was a nation saying peace and safety. It's like we had no idea. Now, as we look back, and it's become very clear since that day that we should have understood, as clear as a lady that's carrying a baby, there's going to be a delivery day. We should have understood there's going to be trouble from terrorists around. I mean, there was every sign, and it's been said many times since that day that on September the 11th, the terrorists had been at war with us for a long time, but we just didn't recognize them, and we had not been at war with them, but we started the war there, I guess you could say, on that day. But since that day, and although that's been 20-some years ago, there's been hundreds, if not thousands, of reports and articles stressing that one thought, that these signs were evident. These things were here. We should have seen this. We should have seen this coming. And that's what he's telling us here. We need to be alert. As we look forward to the day of the Lord's return, God's people, of all people, shouldn't be caught off guard. Now, there's going to be plenty of people that are lost that's going to be amazed when the Lord comes back. And I don't even know how it's going to happen. I don't know as far as how this world, when the Lord comes and takes a church, can you imagine what kind of chaos this world is going to be in? Can you imagine cars driving down the road and we're gone? The Lord takes us out. Those cars, what kind of story is people going to believe? I don't know, because I'm not going to be here to listen to it, but they're going to believe it. And God's going to help them believe it. He's going to help them get through to them. So, but it's going to be a chaotic world when God takes the church out. We shouldn't be surprised, though. We know it. And just as He's instructed us, we ought to watch and pray. We ought to learn to discern the signs. And when I see things, and of course, you hear it ever since I was a child. I've heard that the Lord was coming back, and I believe it. I believe as much today, and more so today than I did even then. But I do remember, and I've said this before, as I studied that as a young teenager, as I was studying this and reading all those things, I was so convinced the Lord was going to come back, I didn't think I would ever get married. My wife's wishing he would have come back probably before that happened, but I didn't think, I was so sure the Lord was going to come back, I didn't think I would ever get old enough to get married, but I did that. And so he's telling us here, don't get lulled to sleep by the false sense of, hey, we got plenty of time. Because things has been going, and Peter warned about balkers. People say, hey, everything's the way it's always been. And it is the way it's always been, but it's going to change sometime. And I don't know when, but he gives us some things to look for. And I know a lot of people say, well, there's more earthquakes now, there's more water, there's more of this. Well, those things he said is going to come, but then he says, but the end is not yet. But it is more severe than it ever has been. Or at least we register. Maybe we keep track of it much more than we used to. But Paul or Peter was warning them that when people would mock and they say, hey, everything's like it used to be, he says, don't forget Noah's day. He said, you remember on Noah's day, can you imagine somebody for 100, I'm thinking 120 years now, but I might be wrong on that, but I'm thinking for 120 years, Noah built on this. That's a long time. And people come by and people saying things, and you know kids, of course, then kids and granddads were both alive all at the same time, and can you imagine them, people come by and he's saying, Dad, this guy out there building that thing he calls a boat. And he told me that there's going to be rain. And Dad, yeah, but he told me that too when I was a kid. And he told your granddad that. But you know what? When it started, they were surprised. But they knew, I'll guarantee you, their minds all went, that's what he said. This is what's happening here. And so Peter's reminding him, he says, don't forget what happened in Noah's time. And they had a real false sense of security. Don't let that happen. So Peter... And I read this, and I think, if you read the New Testament, Peter and Paul, they believed that the Lord was going to come back in their day. So if they believing it that strong, then we ought to even be realizing it's even closer today, much closer. And the fact is, if they thought he was coming then I hear sometimes people say, well, I think these things have to happen before the Lord comes back. Nothing has to happen before he comes back. Everything that has to happen has already happened. All he has to do is come back. And I don't know when that's going to be, so we need to be informed and we need to be alert. But then he says third in verse number 8, we need to be prepared. He says, but let us who are of the day be sober, putting on the breastplate of faith and love, and for an helmet the hope of salvation. For God hath not appointed us to wrath, but to obtain salvation by our Lord Jesus Christ, who died for us, that whether we wake or sleep, we should live together with him. Now I read this and I think in the summertime, some of you, not me anymore, but some of you send your kids off to camp. And they go to camp for a week, maybe family camp, maybe some other camps. And this may not be the case all the time, but this is what I see in my head. What's mom doing on the morning they're coming home or the afternoon they're coming home? She's getting everything ready for them. Come back home. That's what she's preparing. But see, she's got the benefit of knowing the day that they're coming home and knowing the hour that they're supposed to be there. But verse 2 tells us that the Lord's going to come like a thief. How do you prepare for a thief? Well, you put locks on your doors and you keep them locked. You put things out. You do all those things. But for you and I who are saved, he's not coming like a thief. Because if we're prepared, it's going to be a very happy occasion. When the Lord comes back, and we can't even imagine what it's going to be like when the Lord takes us out here. But what about the people that's not prepared? You see, if you're not prepared, it's going to be worse than a thief coming. It's going to be worse than that. For those who are unprepared, it'll be a very terrible time because that means their opportunity to get ready is gone. It's too late. I run across people who say, well, when everybody's gone, if the rapture is going to occur like you say, preacher, then when everybody's gone, I'm going to know it, so then I'll trust the Lord. It's too late. We could get into arguments on that. Some people think that, but I just believe that those who've been enlightened, those who've been understood, but they said, no, I don't think God's going to deal with their heart. And you don't get saved just because it comes on your mind. You get saved when the Lord deals with your heart. So how do you prepare? Well, that's really the good news because the verses we just read talks about the hope of salvation. And he talks about God not intended. God didn't plan a day of wrath for us. God, his goal is not see how many people he can destroy and send off into hell. No, his goal is for people to be saved, to receive salvation through Christ, and so he died for us that we could all live together with him. He's made the preparations. I couldn't make that. I couldn't make the preparation for myself because I can't pay for my own sins. I mean, I could, but it'd take all eternity to do it. And I don't want to do that. So Jesus paid that price by dying on the cross in our place. And the Bible uses a word for that. It's called grace. And he gave us something that we didn't deserve. And I read a story a couple weeks ago that I thought was interesting, and it kind of fit with this thought of being prepared and out of God's grace, and the fact that he's not looking forward to punishing people. He's not looking for judgment. He's looking for people to get saved. And I read the story, and many of you remember this from a few years back when Nelson Mandela had been a prisoner for 27 years. And he was finally released. And when he came out of prison, of course, he was actually voted in. I don't know whether they call it president or what he was, but he was a leader there. And of South Africa, I guess it would be called president. And he appointed the Archbishop Desmond Tutu. You probably heard that name. He made him the official government panel called the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Now, I don't know if you've ever read everything that went on over there, but things we talk about here, you hear a lot about racism, and you hear a lot of stuff here in the United States. You want to see it, you go back to when Nelson Mandela was in jail and things going on in South Africa. But here's what happened when he got in leadership. He made some rules. The rules are really simple. If a policeman, a white policeman, or an army officer would voluntarily come and face their accusers and confess to the crimes they committed, because there was many of them, and it's well knowledge, I mean, well documented. But if they would confess to those crimes and acknowledge they were guilty, they was not to be tried or punished for the crime. Now, granted, the hardliners, they grumbled quite a bit about this obvious injustice of letting criminals go free, but Mandela said this. He said, our country needs healing more than it needs justice. And my thought is, I'm talking about grace today. And here's a story that come out of that. At one hearing, a policeman, his name was, I probably will not say it right, but you can read the story, Van de Broek. He recounted an incident that he and other officers shot an 18-year-old boy and burned his body to destroy the evidence. This is a police officer. 8 years later, he returned to that same house and seized the boy's father, and they made the wife watch as they bound him on a woodpile, poured gasoline over his body, and ignited him. And now they're in the courtroom, and he's doing what is according to this. He said, Mandela told him, when our accusers come, you confess what you do. You're not going to the trial on it. You're not going to jail. And so the courtroom got very quiet as this elderly lady, who had lost first her son and then her husband, was given a chance to respond. The judge says, what do you want from Mr. Van de Broek? She said she wanted him to go to the place where they burned her husband's body, gather up the dust so they could give him a decent burial. And the policeman said, they said he was sitting there with his head down in shame, and he nodded that he would do that. And then she added this. She says, Mr. Van der Broek took all of my family away from me, and I still have a lot of love to give. She said, twice a month, I would like for him to come to the ghetto and spend time with me so I can be a mother to him. And then she said, and I'd like for Mr. Van der Broek to know that he's forgiven by God and that I forgive him too. And I would like to embrace him so he'll know my forgiveness is real. And they said spontaneously the courtroom started singing Amazing Grace as this elderly lady got up, and she went over to the witness stand where Mr. Van der Broek was, but he didn't hear the song because he was so overwhelmed by her grace that he fainted. Justice was not done in South Africa that day. Something beyond justice took place, and it's the thing called grace. And that's what God's done for us. Rather than seeking justice for sin, an old woman took the hurt and absorbed the hurt and returned instead forgiveness. And could I tell you that Jesus for us absorbed the hurt, and he offers us forgiveness if we just come to him. And people don't hear, we don't tell that story enough, but it is true. And I've run across very few people in my life that really think that they're innocent of everything. They know we're guilty. But many just don't think it's not enough that I need to do anything about it. But the fact is, if we just simply trust his sacrifice that he paid for our sin, and turn from that old way of living and trust in him, follow him, he said that's all it takes. And I would encourage you, if you've done that, then there's one other thing you can be informed, as he said. You can be alert. You need to be prepared. But if you've done all those things that I just mentioned, you can be excited. He says in verse 11, wherefore, comfort yourselves together and edify, building one another up, even as also you do. That's sort of the theme in the book of 1st and 2nd Thessalonians. It's for those who have trusted Christ, news that he's coming back, it's a pretty encouraging thing. And I'm reminded, almost every time we get, this is a very small year on it when it comes to elections, but just the fact that it comes on and you get to hearing all these things and you get to hearing what people stand for, I just keep thinking, boy, I wish the Lord would just come back. Honestly, I wish he would, I kind of wish he'd do things a little reverse, and I know he's not going to, but first I wish he'd straighten everybody out, then come back, because I like to be able to see it, but that's just me because I'm selfish, but I see that, but though you and I who've trusted the Lord, we got something to be excited about. The beginning that's never going to end, and it's hard to put into words. Somebody wrote a housewife, and I've never heard of a name like this. Her name was Faye Inchfawn. But I don't even know when she lived, but she wrote some things about the expectancy of God's presence, which kind of talks a little bit to our modern day, but I'll read this and we'll be done. She said, sometimes when everything goes wrong, when days are short and nights are long, when wash day brings so dull a sky that not a single thing will dry. Now remember, this is a housewife writing this poem. She said, when friends deplore my faded youth and when the baby cuts a tooth, while John, the baby last but one, clings around my skirts till day is done, sometimes I say on days like these, I get a sudden glim of bliss. Not on some sunny day of ease, he'll come, but on a day like this. I don't know when he's going to come. I don't know if it's going to be a sunny day, if it'll be a cloudy day, but let me encourage you, he's going to come. And as he comes, and as you're looking for his coming, we just need to be simple. We need to be informed. We need to know it. It needs to be in the forefront of our mind. We need to be alert. We need to be prepared. And if we're all those things, then we can be excited about it, and we can look forward to it. And I'd kind of like for him to come sometime on I've always thought this, and it's another bad thing I shouldn't think, but I've always liked for him to come on a Sunday morning right after church. For the people that, I slept in today and the Lord come back and now I'm on the way to heaven and I've got to tell him why I didn't go to church today. I just always wanted that. I don't know if that'd be, but that's just me thinking crazy. But he is coming. I don't know when he's coming. Don't know anything about all that, but I'm going to be ready when he gets here. Now, I appreciate you being here and part of our service tonight. If you've got a prayer list with you, let's just spend a few moments praying over it. And thank you for all the updates tonight. That's the most we've discussed on our prayer list in a long time. And it definitely helps us to pray better. Although I wrote so much stuff down I can't even read mine again.